Friday, January 3rd, 2025, second trading session of the new year. It's about 9:05 here. I get 25 minutes to open talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at. Go from there, take a look at S&P futures, looking like we're going to bounce. But then again, we were green yesterday before the open and reversed all that. So important day today. I think it's three of the last four first days of the year have been in the red. So to kind of take things out of the first session is uh, I guess premature, but January sometimes sets the trend for the rest of the year. So hopefully we can find some footing here. I think a lot of it, it was 12:15. Markets were chopping around, and then all of a sudden we dropped from 588 all the way down to 581 on a SPY in a matter of 15 minutes. So back at the end of November and in the first half of December, we traded in 0.5% and less trading ranges for pretty much that entire time frame. And meanwhile, here we are in a 15-minute time frame in the first trading session of 2025, and we traded in a 1.1% range in 15 minutes. So pretty remarkable stuff. It's almost like good to get it out of the market system, right? To get that out of the way. And hopefully, again, we can find some footing here today. I would love to see the SPY back over its 50-day moving average soon. It's three straight sessions to the down to underneath it. The third session back in the middle of December, we reversed and we were able to find some green. So hopefully that's the case here today. I was, I have 585 as my support resistance on the SPY, and I was looking to get hedge positions if we broke below that, but it happened so rapidly yesterday. And then the names I was looking at, and MDB is one of them. It was solidly green before that move, and then I looked and you look at the chart, and then it was holding up, and I'm like, the only way I can really the that the puts would pay as a hedge is if the market really took another leg to the downside, another 1%. I didn't think that was going to be the case. Sat on my hands. I'll talk about MDB in a second. So just watching the SPY again, I'd love to see it close over the 50-day moving average. Probability here, and then something I don't want to see is go back to your pre-election levels of 575 on a SPY, which is possible the longer we stay under this 50-day moving average. Last but not least, I put an overlay now. So the U.S. dollar is kind of catching the attention. You start seeing more chatter around it, hitting multi-year highs. And funny, it's running in tandem with yields. So I'm going to have that overlay until this is not something that could be a potential catalyst. But the longer yields and the dollar head higher, the higher probability, again, we hit the 575 on the spine, and maybe we start rearing that correction where it starts coming out. And traditionally speaking, historically speaking, not traditionally speaking, the past 20 years there's been 10 corrections. So with 50% probability that there's a correction. We didn't have one last year. So whether it happens at the start of the year, middle of the year, it's probably going to happen this year at some point. All right, so that's that. That's the overall market. So then individual names, TripAdvisor look great right out of the gate, even when the market was pulling back all the way up to 1525, pretty much right at that 1215 level when the SPY started to sell off. Unfortunately, it closed at 14.99. We'd love to see it back over 15 bucks. Yesterday, and I was talking about a rant yesterday afternoon, you had, I guess, the publication, the information saying one of their predictions for 2025 was that Amazon was going to acquire Lyft. And if you know Uber's trying to be a super app, which not only is going to be ride hailing, but they already got into the food delivery. They're looking for other avenues to make sure that their app is front and center from the consumer standpoint. And with that is travel and booking reservations, and not only for hotels, but travel, flights, and restaurants. And hey, here's TripAdvisor. So we'll see what happens there. But I just think if there's any more rumors, that just forces the hand of Uber to maybe take some action while they can, right? So that's really love Trip. I mean, I can go on and on about it like I've been doing, but I won't. Solar Edge and the January effect, another thing that typically would happen at start of January, less so over the last couple of years than it has been prevalent in the past. But either way, a lot of the beaten up stocks in 2024 that are not going bankrupt typically tend to rally at the start of the new year in January. So you saw that yesterday in one of the names I'm looking, Solar Edge running, no news, no catalyst, just taking off. Went and got some strikes. I think it's undervalued, and there's an opportunity there for it to squeeze because huge short interest as well. And I think it trades over 20 bucks in the coming weeks and months. One week, one day, one couple days, it's going to go on a massive run, and any of the calls you have under 20 bucks are going to be severe multi-baggers. So that's why I continue to look for some strikes. Was doing great as well at the 12:15 hour. I think it was 15:30 or so. It hit 15:47, excuse me, and then sold off back down to 14:30 and then closed at 14:80, down about, still up about 8%. Really like this one for the next couple sessions. Not much here to add on Joby. I mean, it's down 4 sessions in a row, but barely in the red yesterday. If you look at the chart, it looks like it's consolidating, right? So as long as you don't, it doesn't break down under that 760 for any extended period of time, it looks like consolidation. But if it does break that, then you'd have to say, hey, well, it's in sell-off mode. So hopefully that's not the case. It can gain some momentum. Still wait for that 933 handle to break and hold. I'll look for some strikes there. And in some of my top 5 stocks for 2025, every quote spiked out of the gate all the way up to 21 right after the open before pulling back. Still looking, we'll add some strikes there. I think it heads over $25 in the coming weeks. I was talking about Carvana, right? All of a sudden, the car sector is under a magnifying glass after the Hindenburg short report out yesterday. I don't think it'll have any impact, but I think it just puts more spotlight on, hey, this is a sector that has been struggling over the last 2 years in regards to car sales. I mean, you look at Carvana has been doing great, but I think there's an opportunity there. And every quote, Lemonade, also the potential bull flag breakout is still intact. 35 is kind of the the area where you say, okay, that negates the bull flag, and then we have to revisit. But once Lemonade breaks out over $42, I'll be looking to get some more strikes there. Just a matter of time on that one. And then MDB. And MDB can make the case, number one, that the chart is pinching. And then number two, you have the momentum indicators, the first indicator down at the first one underneath the chart. And that looks like it's reversing. And once it reverses, typically then you have a bullish momentum crossover, right? And then when that happens, that typically precedes a larger move. So call me crazy. I think 280 comes in. If you look at our earnings back at the first week and a half of December, they were actually strong earnings. The stock was gapping. It was actually in the green for the open and then just reversed. And you can see, I mean, it's off substantially over $100 since the earnings. And if you look at MDB, it's had a history of these where maybe it's priced for perfection or expectations are high. It reports a great quarter, but not strong enough for folks. And then it sells off and then it just becomes a buying opportunity. So it's done this over and over again. Back in August, it was down to these levels and then it all the way up to 360 from under 220. Not saying it's deja vu all over again, but could be an opportunity here for the calls. So might look for some strikes there. Also, you have some folks who think it's like their top stock for 2025 in a basket of other stocks. So it could be an opportunity there. On the flip side here is Intuit, and Intuit finally closed under its 200-day moving average for consecutive sessions. Almost looks like a trap door, right? That 200-day moving average, it looks like the trap door is open, and now we'll see if the stock can get under that trap door and stay under. It looks like it's gapping a little bit here in the pre-market, not much volume, but if it breaks under yesterday's levels, 619 or so, I'll look for some puts to play for downside, and I think that will happen regardless of what the market does. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. Lemonade. I think that's it, folks. I'm probably not going to do too much today. If we do start to bounce, I'll look for MDB, maybe even spec lotto calls today. You take a look at Apple and Tesla. Hopefully they can find some footing. Apple, like I was saying yesterday, 7.6% weighting in the S&P. So when Apple sells off 3%, you have to assume that the S&P is going to take it on the chin. And then you take a look at Tesla's another name that's top 10 weighting in the S&P. I think they're 7 or 6, number 6. Their weighting is only like 2.5%. But that also took a weighting on the S&P. And then similarly, what happens is because we've had, 53% of the market gains come from the Magnificent Seven last year. When those sell off, even if the other underlying names do well, it looks like carnage, right? Yesterday's watch, I have a screener up here, and over 50% of them are in the green despite the market weakness. So anyway, rants for other days. Let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back 60 minutes to the open. Rock and roll.